For decades, if you were looking to buy a specialty off-road type of SUV that allowed you to take the doors and the roof off, your choices were a Jeep Wrangler, and of course a Jeep Wrangler. However, after a 25-year hiatus, Ford has decided that they are tired of watching Jeep gorge themselves in a segment that clearly many Americans want to purchase, which is why I'm standing by the completely reincarnated 2021 Ford Bronco. And unlike the Bronco Sport that I drove earlier this year, this is the real deal Bronco because it's built off of a truck ladder type frame. It comes standard with four-wheel drive, and you have the availability of locking front and rear diffs and a front sway bar disconnect. This particular one here that I'm driving is the enthusiast-friendly two-door Bronco Black Diamond, equipped with the 7-speed manual transmission. So if you guys have been in the market for a dedicated off-road style SUV that isn't a Jeep, was the 25-year wait for this new Bronco worth it? Stay tuned to find out. So I definitely wouldn't want to be the designer of the reincarnated 6th generation Bronco. I mean, let's face it, when you've been waiting 2.5 decades for the return of a very popular nameplate in America, you can't get this wrong. And as you can see, this vehicle is easily the most hotly anticipated SUV of 2021. Now, what Ford essentially did here when they were designing the new 6th generation Bronco, they took the 1st generation Bronco. I think Ford specifically used a 1976 Bronco as the design inspiration because they wanted to create, again, a retro modern design cue. And Ford has quite a bit of experience with this. They started out, of course, doing this back with the 2005 Mustang, which was a huge hit for them. So obviously, because Ford decided to kill off all of their cars in America, this is what we're getting that is a nod to not only enthusiasts, but to the rest of the world. People have been salivating over this SUV, and they've also been waiting for nearly 2 years to get their hands on one. So let's talk about the styling of this version, because this is the Black Diamond. It is on the lower end of the trim hierarchy. Ford offers 7 different trims, really 6 if you discount the first edition, because that's a limited run style vehicle. Now, of course, the front fascia, I love how it just spells Bronco out at the front. It reminds everybody that you have a really special car. It just looks very unique. It turns a lot of heads. Everywhere I look, this vehicle turns heads from especially Jeep drivers, but just regular drivers as well. Now, unlike the Wrangler, you have standard full LED headlights. Now, these are the lower end LED reflector headlights. You have LED low and high beams. Surprisingly, you still get LED turn signals. No fog lights on the Black Diamond. You can get LED fog lights on the trim above this one, the Outer Banks, but you can see if you guys go for the Outer Banks, you'll also have an upgraded LED with a projector style. You'll have a circular LED daytime running light that kind of goes into the LED turn signal. I'd probably go for that version, although I love how Broncos come standard with LED headlights, because in a Wrangler, you can get something like a Rubicon, which is expensive, and you still have to pay extra for LED headlights, so I love that. Now, the Black Diamond trim comes standard with the steel bumper, which, as you can see, very rugged looking. It also comes with the full bash plate underneath, which is great. This particular one here is missing the Sasquatch package, so you only have 8.4 inches of ground clearance, which doesn't sound like a lot. The Sasquatch package will raise it up by about 2.5 inches. So I suspect a lot of owners are gonna probably want that. The beauty about the Bronco is you can get the Sasquatch package on every trim, including the base version, so you don't have to buy an expensive Rubicon like on a Jeep. To get that steel bumper is like a grand extra on other trims. It comes standard on the Black Diamond, the Wild Trek, and of course the first edition. Now, being the Black Diamond two-door, you can see this vehicle just looks really cool. In this cactus gray color with the black painted steelies and these 32-inch tall General Grabber all-terrain tires, I just loved this entire spec when they dropped it off. Now, personally, I probably would want to consider going up to the Outer Banks trim at least and adding the Sasquatch package. Or there's also the Badlands trim, which is basically this, but with more equipment, and you get 33 or 35-inch tall tires with the Sasquatch package. But let me know in this comment section below, do you guys like the two-door or do you like the four-door? Personally, I would go with the four-door because it gives you more space, but this here is really, really cool. Now, in terms of the dimensions, the Bronco is about 173.7 inches long overall. Its wheelbase is about 100 inches long on this two-door version. The four-door is going to add roughly 16 inches to the wheelbase and to the overall length, which puts it right in the line of fire with a Jeep Wrangler. But compared to a Wrangler, this is about 7 inches longer and about 2 inches wider. So you definitely get a sense that the vehicle is bigger. It looks a lot bigger actually in person versus in the photos. Even though this is the smaller two-door version, this is the one that you're going to want to get if you plan to off-road the vehicle constantly. Now, my tester has the molded in color hardtop, which is a rare combination to find right now with the two-door hardtop configuration. You cannot get a full body-colored hardtop on the Bronco just yet, and they also don't offer the top options like where you have that power retractable soft top in the Wrangler. You can also get a traditional soft top, but the soft top also has plastic windows, which I don't particularly like. They also get scratched and whatnot. The Sasquatch package also will include wider fenders to clear the 35-inch tall tires. And you can see, looking at the rear of the Bronco, the bad thing about the lower trims is you don't get the LED taillights. The outer bank trims and up will come with full LED taillights. These are just the incandescent design, but man, did Ford do a fantastic job with the look of this vehicle. It just looks really retro modern. It just turns heads everywhere. The black diamond trim also comes with the steel bumper back here, although this portion right here is plastic, but it's nice that Ford gives you that. Broncos can tow a maximum 3,500 pounds. You can see this one already has the tow package and the spare tire. All of them will come with a full-size spare with the wheel at the back. So again, that's a feature that a lot of owners love, because when you're off-roading, you need something like that. And the beauty about the Bronco, because it is bigger than the Wrangler, you do get more cargo space in this vehicle. Now, opening up, you can see the tailgate actually allows you to swing this open pretty wide. It actually will stop first when you open it to prevent you from slamming your tailgate into another vehicle if it's parked next to another vehicle. But you can see the hardtop allows you to flip up this rear glass. The soft top actually allows you to also flip up the soft top panel as well, which is an interesting feature. But you can see with the back seats still up, you get around 22.5 cubic feet of space. That's roughly 5 more, I believe, than the Wrangler. And if you'd like, you can also fold down this seat, which you have to fold down a piece, the actual seat bottom cushion out first to get this seat to be more flat when you fold it down. But when you do that, you get around 52 cubic feet of space, which is a little bit more again than the Bronco. The four-door version will increase that to nearly 83 cubic feet of space. So this is a bigger vehicle on the outside and on the inside, and you're going to really enjoy the extra space. You can see this two-door version has those removable panels there on the roof, and they also include this little bag here where you can fit the panels in here. The two-door requires the hardtop requires 2 people to remove. There's about 4 bolts on each side to remove the actual hardtop, and you also have to disconnect the rear wiper and the rear washer connections. Now, in case you guys are curious, this is what the Bronco two-door looks like with the molded in color hardtop removed. The hardtop definitely is a 2-person job to get the roof off. It involved essentially taking off the roof rails, which include this little cover to cover up the front windshield. You also have to take off the 2 front panels that are removed, and this area here comes off as one piece. But when you do remove that, look at that, you have this completely open air experience. There's no crossbar like you get in a Wrangler to obstruct your view, and Ford even threw in an airbag that's built into the roof rails. They actually had to develop one. This is the first that I've seen in the segment. The Wrangler does not have curtain airbags in the roll cage. But looking at the styling of the vehicle, you can see with the roof off, you just have something that screams even more, cool and more fun because of the fact that the roof panel is off. This is a really great car to drive on a beautiful day like this. The two-door Bronco is probably the one that enthusiasts are going to go after, but I had 4 people and all of our stuff in this vehicle, and we went on a grocery run to Costco, and it was pretty full. It had the trunk filled up to the brim, but you can fit 4 people in this vehicle relatively comfortably. The backseat area is definitely tight when you don't have the roof panel on, or the wind noise is definitely loud on the highway, but you can see you can access the cargo area really easily back here, and the vehicle just looks even better with the roof off, although I really think that most buyers are probably going to go with the hardtop. The soft top model is going to be easier to take the roof on and off. This is definitely a 2-person job, which took a little bit more time than I expected. So let's move into the interior of the new Bronco, and for demonstration purposes, I've left the roof off so you guys can see the interior in better light. This was definitely a 2-person job, which was a little more challenging to do, but here's the key fob for the vehicle. All Broncos will have the older Ford style key. It's a fairly large key. My tester, because it's a black diamond without the mid-grade package, it doesn't have intelligent access key. I do have this keyless entry keypad here, which definitely is starting to look a little bit dated. Ford has a better system in some of their upper end models, but because it doesn't have the smart entry, I have to actually use the key fob to unlock the door, even though it does come with push button start. Now, one thing I want you to notice about the doors, I really like how when I open the doors, it's a frameless glass. Now, Ford is very proud of that because the Wrangler, you still have a door frame. And I also like this area right here where you can kind of put your hand here. You can use it to, it's a nice grab area where you could put the door, where you can grab the door to open and close it. The door also has kind of like a built-in handle right here, because remember, these doors are removable which is good. And they're also a little bit lighter versus the doors on the Wrangler because they are a frameless design. I also like the door panel design. Obviously, we have a lot of hard black plastic, but it's very utilitarian and durable and water resistant. You expect that in a vehicle like this. But if you look right here, this is actually the painted door panel that Ford kind of just left a little cutout here in the plastic, which is a really cool design. It's soft padded right here. My Tester, being a black diamond, has these really cool two-tone, it's kind of like a leatherette material. It's water resistant, which is good, especially if you have the roof off and it starts raining like this. And I also love just the beefy design of it. You still have a leather wrapped wheel, you have these beefy door handle grabs, you also have exposed screw heads, and a lot of the plastic is definitely hard touch, but I would expect it in this kind of vehicle. The higher trims should have a little bit better soft touch materials, which again is something that you're going to be getting if you pay a little bit extra. Now, of course, my Tesla doesn't have any running boards and whatnot, and you can use this grab handle here to kind of help you get into the vehicle, which the standard model has 8.4 inches of ground clearance, so it's not terribly hard to get into this vehicle. When I shut the door, I don't particularly like the way the door slam sounds. It's a little bit tinny sounding, but it's also because it's a frameless design for the glass and these doors are removable, so I kind of have to give it a pass. Now, of course, looking at the rest of this interior, you can see with the bugs flying in, because we have a completely open air experience. Like I said earlier, it is much wider than a Wrangler, about 2 inches wider, and you feel that the moment you get inside the vehicle. It has a lot more space between the front seat passengers. And because I have the 7-speed manual, technically it's 6 speeds, it has that crawler gear. The button to fire the engine is where you'd expect it to be. The clutch also is actually a little bit long travel, but it's pretty light. And you can see this particular one here has a half digital, half analog instrument cluster. The digital part looks pretty nice, although I kind of think that Ford should have just given us an all digital display. You can see there's a digital speedo, a digital tach, which is hard to read when you're driving a stick, and then an analog speedometer. This is kind of useless. I would have rather Ford given me an analog tach, to be honest, because the tach, the digital one, is hard to read. But my Tester has the smaller 8-inch Sync 4 infotainment system. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's wireless, which, as you can see, my phone is already connected when I click that. The screen clarity is great. If you guys want the larger 12-inch display, it's available if you guys step up to the Outer Banks trim, and it'll basically delete this entire black-gray this gray bezel here to give you a full screen. I also like the blue accents in the air vents. It's just a really nice place to spend time in here. And typical, vehicles in this segment, you have some storage here. You have your buttons here for your rear locker, stability control off. There'll be more buttons here if you guys have the sway bar disconnect. And then, of course, you have these auxiliary switches here where you can add a bunch of extra things like off-road lights, winches, and whatnot. So again, the customization is endless in this vehicle, just like in the Wrangler. Now, my Tester has just a manual single-zone climate control system. Air conditioning, of course, is standard. You have USB charging ports over here. No wireless phone charger in my Tester, although it looks like it would go here if I actually had the option for it because my phone fits perfectly in there. This right here is your drive mode selector and your 4-wheel drive switch. So there's a 2 high, 4 automatic, 4 low, downhill assist control, and 4 high. And then the GOAT modes here, you can see it'll switch between several different drive modes. There's an eco mode, there's a normal mode, there's a sport, and then slippery, mud ruts, sand, and then rock crawl. GOAT stands for goes over any terrain. So it's kind of Ford's marketing thing, which is kind of funny to see something like that, but it works really well. We'll try those out as we go into the driving scene. Now you can see cup holders here. You have your window controls, which are on the console. Jeep puts them over here on the dash. I kind of like how Ford puts them here, and they're one-touch automatic up down for both front. I need to sit in a 4-door model to see if they give me one-touch automatic in the rear. Your power mirror controls are also back here. The buttons also have a nice tactile rubberized feel. They feel really high quality, which is great. If I put the truck into reverse here, you can see there's a backup camera, which has trajectory. It has distance markers. The resolution is fine. Nothing super fancy, but it all works well. The Sync 4 infotainment system has things like over-the-air updates, and it works okay. The screen is good resolution. It's relatively quick, although there were times where it was laggy a little bit. Remember, the 12-inch display, I'm not anticipating it to be better, but it's going to look a little bit better in the dash because of how wide this vehicle is. Right here, there's actually a GoPro mount, which is pretty cool. Ford allows you to do that so you can record your off-road excursions. This is a nice padded armrest right here. You can see, open this up. It's a pretty decent storage area, which is nice. The seats, I actually think they're really comfortable and supportive, way more comfortable than the last Wrangler seats. They don't hold you in place really well, but they offer a 6-way manual, and I love this material right here. It's water resistant, and it feels really good. It feels really high quality and just durable, which is what I like. Opening up the glove compartment here, you can see it's a bin style. It's actually a pretty big size glove compartment, and the lid is damped. But overall, the interior, Very, very nice for what it is. You also have full LED lighting in the cabin, which I believe the Wrangler gives you. And I'm looking forward to spending some time in a four-door that has a little bit more equipment to see some of the changes to the interior, because this one here is definitely more utilitarian and a little bit cheaper feeling, but it's also rugged, durable. And I also love how the doors in this vehicle are designed, because basically when you have the windows down, you can easily rest your hand over the windowsill, and it's just ergonomically very comfortably designed. Now, to get back into the second row of the two-door version, you basically need to come to the passenger side, because if you pull this lever here, the seat will slide forward and it'll also slide in its tracks forward. The driver's side won't do that automatically. You have to actually pull the latch here at the front to push the seat forward. And in terms of legroom, Ford actually says you get around 35.7 inches back here. It's about an inch less versus the four-door. The four-door doesn't give you that much more. The Wrangler two-door offers less legroom, but the Wrangler four-door offers more legroom versus the Bronco. So let me get back here. You can see my tester has a rubberized floor with an actual drain pit, so you can, or drain plug, so you can kind of get this interior wet and just hose it off. And then when you get back here, you can see the space is really good. I'm 5'7", so I have plenty of leg room, good headspace also. You can see without that bar here, there's nothing that's obstructing your view. You can see really cool area here, plastic area where you can clip, I guess, those hiking hooks. You have a little netted map pocket here. You have a USB charging port, 2 of them actually down there, which surprised me. Materials are all hard touch plastic, but you can see there's actually a cup holder on this side, a cup holder on this side, and just look at this view. I mean, this is really cool. I will notate that I sat back here on the highway and the wind noise is bad. Above 55 miles an hour, you basically feel like you're on a motorcycle on a roller coaster, because the wind buffeting is bad. And if you guys have long hair, you might want to tie it up or wear a hat. Now, under the hood of the latest Bronco, what I like is, unlike the Wrangler where anybody can come and just open your hood because it doesn't actually have an interior release, this vehicle has a traditional release on the inside, and of course, when you pop the hood, it has a prop rod, which is what I expected, but it's nice that Ford gives you a little bit more security versus the Wrangler. And right now, they only offer a choice of 2 different engines in this vehicle at launch. Now, my tester has the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder. This is the turbocharged EcoBoost engine from the Mustang. This is the smaller engine. If you want the manual transmission, you have to go with this engine. Now, of course, even though you have the base engine, this is certainly no slouch. On regular gas, this will make 270 horsepower. On premium, it'll make a nice even 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are better than what you get in the base V6 and the turbo 4-cylinder in the Wrangler. So again, Ford didn't skimp here with the base engine, and paired with this 7-speed manual, there's also an optional 10-speed automatic. All Broncos come standard with 4-wheel drive with a true low-range transfer case. Now, for those of you who want more, for about $2,000, you can add the 2.7-liter twin-turbo V6. That comes standard with a 10-speed auto. The V6 will make 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. I haven't driven that motor yet. I'm hoping Ford will send me a 4-door with the V6. But after spending a week with this model here, the 4-cylinder, I will say, has plenty of power. Fuel economy is not great on any Bronco. This particular one here is rated to get 17 in the city, 19 on the highway, like 18 combined. You can, again, run it on regular, but premium is recommended if you guys want the full performance. All Broncos are rated to tow with the tow package about 3,500 pounds. And curb weight, this is a relatively heavy vehicle. This particular one here is one of the lightest that I've seen at around 4,400 pounds. The top first edition 4-door with the V6 can tip the scales at over 5,300 pounds. All right, so we are finally behind the wheel of the new Bronco. I have been waiting a long time to drive this. I'm probably one of the last journalists to actually drive this vehicle, but even though I waited a while, Ford sent me the enthusiast-friendly option with the manual transmission, which comes with the 2.3 turbo. This is the 2-door with the hardtop and this very attractive black diamond trim, which is very affordable. Now, with the manual transmission, I was actually genuinely surprised. It is a good manual, and Broncos all come with 4-wheel drive. I have the car in its GOAT mode in sport right now. We have it in 4x4 auto. I want to try just doing a quick little launch with it and see what I can get 0 to 60 in this vehicle. Oh, God. This does not like being launched. That was a really terrible start. I got 8 seconds there, so that was my first time trying to launch this vehicle. I had the traction control off. It doesn't like that, so I'll have to kind of feather the throttle and the clutch a little bit, not dump it so aggressively. But For a base 2.3, this is pretty impressive performance. I mean, 300 horsepower is more than what you get out of the Wrangler's V6 and the Wrangler's 4-cylinder turbo. And I've also taken the roof and the doors off, so that saves a little bit of weight. I'd probably say it saves just under 100 pounds. This is basically one of the lightest Broncos you can buy is this model here. Traction control is still turned off, so let's try it one more time. I'm not gonna dump it so aggressively this time. All right, I got 8.3 there, so my first one was a little bit faster, but I also got a really terrible start. This one, it feels about right. I was gonna say like around this, maybe a low 7 to 8 second range, so with a better launch, you could probably get a slightly better 0 to 60 time, but 0 to 60 times aren't the point of a vehicle like this. I mean, it's not what it's designed for. The gearing's not designed for that. The suspension, the drivetrain's not designed for that. What surprises me the most about driving the new Bronco, and I'm starting, of course, on the road. I'm gonna try to take this vehicle into an off-road park tomorrow just to see what it's like off-roading, is just the open-top nature. I mean, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous day outside right now. It's like 80 degrees. I've got the sun shining right in. I've got the wind in my hair. It is such a joy to drive this thing with the roof down. And unlike the Wrangler, you actually have a completely unobstructed view here because the Wrangler has a crossbar that goes in between. The Bronco does not have it. Instead, Ford designed it so the roll cage doesn't intrude your view, and this vehicle has side curtain airbags in the roll bars. You can't get that in the Bronco, so it's great that Ford was able to design something like that to improve the safety aspect of a vehicle like this, because that's something that a lot of people probably wonder, especially parents. There's a lot of kids or teenagers that I see wanting to drive one of these things, or a Wrangler at least, and this immediately feels like a safer vehicle versus the Jeep, so that's something that is really cool. The one thing I don't like is the tach in this vehicle. It makes it hard to see what RPM I'm at because of the way the tach is designed. You cannot change that design. I think the analog speedo is kind of useless. It should have just been a tach and I would have just had a digital speedo. That probably would have been a little bit better for me. But you know what? Let's try one more 0 to 60. I'm not gonna brake torque it this time. I'm just gonna launch it and see what I can get here. All right, that's much better. I got 7.38 seconds. I'll take that number, and that's about what this truck feels like it can do. It really depends on your shifting. It really depends on the road surface. And remember, I've got the lighter two-door version. This one comes in at around 4,400 pounds, which is still on the heavier side for something like this. But remember, this is still a truck vehicle. I really am impressed with the manual transmission. It's got really nice throws. The Wrangler has a much longer throw with its 6-speed. This is a little bit shorter throw. The clutch also engages right in the middle of the travel. It's a really easy car to drive, which is wonderful because it makes driving this vehicle super fun, especially with the stick. The stick just makes this vehicle feel even more like old school. I love the old school feel of it, just the way it makes you feel when you're behind the wheel. I can see everything so well. I love the hood, the way it has those anchor points at the front of the hood. You definitely feel the extra 2 inches in width in this car, which gives you a more roomy interior. I feel like I have more space to breathe in this vehicle versus a Wrangler. And its on-road dynamics are just so impressive. I just drove this vehicle on a long highway trip, and aside from the wind noise, which is terrible in the back, in the front it's actually not bad, especially when you have the windows up. This vehicle tracks very straight. The steering is precise. It's actually relatively quick to respond. The ride quality is also great. You can credit the independent suspension that you have in the front. You can credit the rack and pinion steering. So Ford got the road manners right. If you're thinking the Bronco is quieter than the Wrangler, that's where the two vehicles are similar. Even with the hardtop that my tester has, I had it with the roof on, I have the hardtop headliner, it's still relatively noisy above 50 miles an hour. So this is definitely not a quiet vehicle, even with the roof on. But what you do get is a vehicle that tracks on the highway much better. It rides a lot better. The steering is far more precise, and the manual is fantastic. I mean, the turbo engine doesn't make much in terms of noises, but it has a lot of power, a lot of torque down low. You can feel it when the turbo engages. You can hear the turbo whistle noise. Remember, this is the same engine out of the Mustang EcoBoost. And it's just really fun. I haven't driven the Bronco with the V6, the twin turbo V6 with the 10-speed yet, but the enthusiast-friendly option is going to please a lot of enthusiasts. This is a better powertrain versus the last Wrangler. And the only thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have the sound. The V6 and the Wrangler enjoys revving and it likes to scream. This doesn't really like to do that. I also would like it if Ford added a rev matching feature, but listen to that, feel that power. It's just, oh, so much torque, so much low-end torque. I'm impressed. Super impressive how well this truck accelerates. On the road, beautiful driving dynamics, great ride, good visibility. I definitely want to get behind the wheel of the V6 and the four-door version because that's probably the one that most people are going to buy. All right, so Bronco Drive wouldn't be complete without taking this thing through something off-road, and I have the GOAT mode here set in mud and ruts. I found this little course just outside of Frederick, Maryland. It's not really a course, it's like an off-road trail that probably a Corolla can get through. But there are a couple of areas where I can put it into four-wheel drive and I can see how the four-wheel drive system works. And I'm also going to be really testing out the wheel articulation, the suspension, how it handles the load. This one here doesn't have the Sasquatch package, remember, but you still have these nice black Steelies with these all-terrain tires. So we'll kind of go through this area here where there's a little mud pit down at the end, but you can feel the steering in this car immediately, I'm noticing, works well on the road and it works well off the road. And the ride quality is really good as well. I like how, right now I have it in mud and ruts, it's in 4 high. It also has a 4-wheel auto setting, which this thing kind of makes like I'm driving through just like a parking lot. Now, here's the little watering hole. And it's always good to get a 4-wheel drive vehicle a little more wet. Now, this area will be a little more challenging. There's a little bit of a dip right here, and there's some rocks to go through. We're gonna test out the wheel articulation. This car does have a rear locker, but I don't think I'll need it here. You can see we're getting a little bit sideways. But yeah, I'm just kind of feathering the clutch. Wow, this just makes it so easy. That was like nothing. But I'm very impressed with the way the suspension, of course, copes and handles, and the grip of the 4-wheel drive system, and the manual. The manual is really easy to use off-roading, which is one of the first times I've driven a stick off-road. All right, so now I have left that little area where there was some rocks and a mud pit, and we're just on a gravel road. In fact, I don't even need 4-wheel drive to go over something like this. In fact, I'm literally passing by this Ford Focus that is on the side of the road here, but hey, maybe they have a flat tire. There are some rocks, it's a little rutted here, but this is probably the majority of what owners are gonna use their Bronco to do anyways. Although this area here, if I had low profile tires, I would not wanna go through this, but you can see here with the black Steelies and these all-terrain General Grabber tires, the Bronco just cruises right over it. It is such a fun car. And in fact, I have it in 2-wheel drive mode right now, and the back end will even step out because I have the traction control turned off. I just put my foot down and just lets the back end step out. But I'm just impressed. The whole body and the whole structure just feels really solid. I don't hear a single rattle in here. Even as I go over these bumps, the last Wrangler that I had in these kind of conditions, you could hear things rattling in the interior. Aside from my voice rattling because it's bumpy, but still the independent front suspension does its job of soaking up the bumps. The gearing in the transmission is also great. I can kind of just leave it in second, put my foot down and let the back step out a little bit. And the steering is so sharp and direct. And you know, a lot of people say that, oh, the Wrangler has better steering because it's a recirculating ball. You don't need that out here. It's just still a really great system. This whole truck just feels really solidly built. It feels like I can throw way tougher situations at this. And honestly, I'm not an off-roader. This channel is not known for doing extreme off-roading unless the manufacturers take me there. But for this kind of gravelly dirt road that owners are gonna probably wanna do in their Broncos, it certainly gets the job done. You never feel like you're wanting for any more capability in this truck. You have this great commanding view of the road in front of you. The seats are also very comfortable and supportive. The hardtop, now that I have it on, does a pretty good job of shielding you from the elements, and although it is a little bit noisier at highway speeds, it just makes the Bronco feel a lot more solid. Now, granted, I mentioned earlier, my tester does not have the Sasquatch package. It's $4,200 extra for that package. Do I want to add that package to the vehicle? Sure, if I was gonna do extreme off-roading with the Jeeps and Moab, absolutely. But if you're thinking about not getting the Sasquatch package, this is gonna suffice. The 8.4 inches of ground clearance is plentiful. You've got the full bash plate on this black diamond model with the steel bumper at the front. And I'm just genuinely impressed. It is comfortable, it is capable, it is refined, yet it's also rugged. It's the whole package, and it's one of the reasons why I think the Bronco is going to do extremely well. This is a really, really well-rounded truck. Bravo, Ford. Bravo. Also, I want to give a shout out to my friend Burn, who does Burn on Cars, who is in the Volvo XC90 in front of me. That's a V8. He put some all-terrain tires on it. It's got a lift. It's always nice to have help, but when you go off-roading, you definitely want to have somebody who kind of helps you spot and helps you in case you run into some trouble. So after spending a full week with the brand new 2021 Ford Bronco, I have to admit, when I first saw this vehicle, I was super excited to drive one of these vehicles. I was sad I wasn't able to make the media drive in Austin, Texas back in June, but I'm really glad that Ford decided to send me one for a week, because this vehicle here, the enthusiast-friendly option with the 7-speed manual, I liked it way more than I thought I would. Now, clearly, I would personally still get a 4-door version, still torn whether I'd get the Sasquatch package or not. The 32-inch tall tires and this black diamond trim, surprisingly, is very, very capable right out of the box, and most owners, I suspect, won't be doing that serious rock crawling anyways. You're going to go for the Sasquatch package unless you plan to do that regularly or you just generally like the look. I like the 2-door hardtop configuration. It looks great in this cactus gray exterior with the black painted steel wheels. The 7-speed manual is a really great option. It's better than the 7-speed that I drove in the last Wrangler, which technically has a 6-speed manual. Although the V6 sounds better in the Jeep, this 4-cylinder has plenty of power. That 0 to 60 time in the mid 7-second range was very impressive. And from what I saw, the V6 isn't any quicker because it is significantly heavier versus the 4-cylinder 2-door model that I'm driving here. If you go for a 4-door V6, it can be roughly 500 pounds heavier, so it kind of negates the extra power that you get in the Jeep or in the V6. Now, of course, there are a few gripes that I have with this car. It's still not a very quiet car on the highway. It does drive a lot better, but the top, even with the hardtop and the headliner, is still a little bit on the noisier side. It all gets better though when you take off the roof, just like in a Jeep, and the doors. It just makes for a really fun open air experience. And the interior, it's not really the most luxurious place to spend time, at least in this trim, but it is very durable. It's very rugged. I love the design. I love the tech in this vehicle. It is better versus the last Wrangler, but I am very curious to drive the Bronco, of course, with the full driver assistance package and all the bells and whistles that you get in the higher trim. So personally, if you guys are looking at this vehicle and you want to save money, this is the model that you want to go with, because Broncos are certainly expensive. They start at $28,500, which isn't that much money. At about $2,500, roughly, if you guys want to go for a 4-door. The 2-door version obviously is the cheaper option. My tester has a couple of options in it. Really, it's a pretty light spec vehicle. When you add in the destination charge, you're looking at an as-tested price of just over $40,000. Now, $40,000, if you guys haven't been in the new car market, that sounds like a lot of money, but it's really only $5 grand more than the average new car transaction price. So it's actually a steal when you look at it. And you still get features like LED headlights, power windows, door locks, cruise control, wireless Apple CarPlay, push-button start. All of those features are optional on the Jeep. You can still get a Wrangler with hand crank windows, so Ford really has thrown in a lot of value. Now keep in mind, if you guys go to a fully loaded first edition with all the bells and whistles, you're looking at spending over 65 grand. So that is a lot of money at that point. And don't forget, Ford is probably going to be working on even cooler versions of the Bronco. A Raptor has all been but confirmed except by Ford. And we should be seeing a Raptor version. We should be seeing a more powerful version, maybe even an electric version, electrified version. I would love to see Ford come out with an all-electric version of the Bronco. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2021 Ford Bronco. It's definitely been worth the wait if you can get a hold of one of these vehicles. A lot of you I know have probably been waiting for a long time to get your hands on one, and if you haven't been waiting, Ford dealers are charging an assload of money by marking these up significantly, which is kind of the norm in today's market. But with all that said, I do think this is one of my favorite new off-road vehicles out there. It gives you everything that the Wrangler gives you, but it's much more comfortable out on the road, which is honestly where most of these vehicles are going to be spending their time anyways. But if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.